Okay, I wanted to do a quick video about modifying geometry in Paraview. Um, I've recently come across this case here where I'm trying to model this aircraft, and when I was looking at the flow solution, I noticed that I've got some bleed through on one of the intakes here, and the reason why that is, if I just change the colour, is because the surface is quite thin, or rather the intake geometry here has a certain thickness, um, which is, I think from memory, about 2 centimeters, and one side of the intake is a little bit thinner than the other. And so when I've generated a flow solution, I plot the results on the zero level surface because it's distance field based. So I load in the flow solution, then I do cell data to point data, or in this case I've done clean cells to grid, and then I can produce a surface contour. And the surface contour that I usually choose is distance field, and then set the distance field value to 0. However, when I do that, in this case, I get the bleed through there, and the reason for that is because even though I've gone for quite a fine mesh, the smallest cell size is about 1.2 centimeters, and so there's literally not enough cells close to the surface to adequately refine these thin intakes. So the choice that I have then is, do I go for an extra level of mesh refinement? Because it's not tree mesh, that means that the cell size would go down to about 6 millimeters, but that means 6 millimeters everywhere on the entire surface of the aircraft, the way I've set it up at the moment. So I can't, specify as a local zone that has extra refinement. It's kind of like a global setting for the minimum cell size. So that's going to mean that the entire mesh size increases quite a lot, you know. So because I don't want to do that, the other option is just to modify the geometry, which is a bit naughty. It's a little bit of a bodge, but it is one way of doing it. So that's what I'm going to try doing next, or what I'm going to describe. And it seems to only be a problem on these intakes. The one at the top looks okay. Even the pointy bit on the front of the aircraft, whatever it's called, is okay. It's just the intakes on either side at the bottom have got a bit of bleed through. And so in my other window, I've got the geometry, and I've done this already. So I just wanted to describe it. I've got the entire aircraft geometry, so I've imported the geometry as an STL file, and then I've used the clip function on the geometry. And if you do a clip, then you can clip it by plane, box, sphere, scalar. I've chosen box. I've located a box carefully to cover the intake. Just one side of the intake. And then I was thinking, well, what do I do with that? Do I scale it? Do I increase it, the scale of it? Do I decrease the scale of it a little bit? Then I thought I might get away with, where's it gone? Oh, might get away with just transforming it. And so what I've done is, if we get rid of the overall aircraft, this is the piece of geometry that I've separated from the aircraft. Then I've thought, maybe if I transform it a little bit, that'll add some extra thickness. And I want to do it in such a way that it doesn't create problems, any other problems, like a step in the geometry elsewhere. So if I add the rest of the aircraft geometry, that transform number, I can set it at 5mm, so if I set it at 1cm, actually I can change the colour of it to red. So now I can see, because I don't have access to the actual CAD geometry, because it's just come from downloaded from a website. I think it was printables. I can see now that I'm moving the geometry in such a way as to increase the thickness of the intake on the outside, but hopefully that's all I'm doing. It doesn't seem to be affecting anything else. Now, from an aerodynamicist point of view, this would not be considered very good, because you're obviously, changing the leading edge shape here. But for the sort of quick and rough and ready simulation that I'm doing, I think it might be quite a good option just to add a little bit of thickness to the intake here. And so what I will probably do is just add 5mm to it, and then I've got to extract that surface and then duplicate it onto the other side, and then save it on top of the original STL file. So create another STL file and merge them together. And by that method, hopefully, when I rerun this, I might not have this sort of bleed through on the engine intakes. So that is just one method that you can use for tweaking geometry in Paraview, which is really useful if you don't have access to the CAD and you just want to do a quick bodge to get something working.